easy.
The table sounds a little smaller. All right, let's call this meeting to order. This meeting is being audio and video recorded. Motion shown or examples may be omitted or amended. If anybody else is recording, please let us know. Okay, thank you. Let's start with the Pledge of Allegiance, please. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Roll call, please.
Mr. Alpert? Mr. Case?
Here.
Dr. Kraft-Reese?
Here.
Charlotte Crane? Here. Bonnie DiTomaso?
Here.
Dr. Eberwein? Mr. Emerson? Mr. Farella?
Here.
Mr. Locatow?
Here.
Ms. Latazori?
Here.
Ms. Lounsbury?
Here.
Mr. Stewart?
Here.
Sarah Tucker?
Here.
Mr. Peters?
Here, we do have a quorum. Any responses from the audience? Anybody in the audience to speak? Online? No? Okay, so first up is Student Affairs. And I think Sarah's online? Sophie's online? Sophie, you up?
Alright. Yeah, I'm right here.
Okay.
Hello, everyone. So basically what has happened, as you all know, the school has officially started back up. That was on August 28th, was the first day for everybody back to school. And freshman welcome dance was held on September 6th, which was a Friday. So basically the freshmen and the seniors, they get together and they do like a little scavenger hunt. And then the juniors and sophomores, they're allowed into the dance later on. So auditions for the fall show this year at Wacona have already been held. And originally, the fall show that we were gonna do was called a show called 12 Angry Jurors, but due to issues with casting and not enough people being at auditions, the show has been changed to the complete works of William Shakespeare abridged. So the applicant players this year, and it's official, the complete works of William Shakespeare abridged is the fall show for this year. And auditions have already been done and rehearsals are underway. So PSAT registration has already been done and PSATs are now available for juniors and seniors. And the day of PSAT testing is Saturday, October 12th from 7:45 in the morning to 11 o'clock a.m. And then many colleges are coming to visit Wacona, such as Bentley University, Rhode Island College, Boston University. And then homecoming is also being held on October 19th. And the National Honor Society is now recruiting applicants. So many students of the junior class have been emailed regarding a application meeting. So that's going to be tomorrow after school at Wacona from 2:25 to 3:15. And then the sports teams, many of the teams so far at Wacona have had their first wins against other different teams. So shout out to the volleyball team, soccer team, football team, because they had their first win against South Hadley. Many of these teams have amazing players. Many of my friends have told me, so we wish them congratulations and we wish them best of luck within the rest of their seasons. So that's it.
Thank you, Sophie. Any questions for Sophie? Thank you.
No problem, thank you.
Okay, next up is the financial reports, warrants.
Okay, so we have 6 warrants that were previously approved. Anybody has any questions? Okay, then we have
Gifts, donations, and grants. Number 1 is acceptance of a donation from Crane Charitable Fund.
Be it resolved that the Central Berkshire Regional School Committee accepts the donation of $3,000 from the Crane Charitable Fund for Wacona Regional Best Buddies Chapter as recommended by the District Treasurer.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any questions? Seeing none, hearing none. Roll call vote, please.
Mr. Alpert? Mr. Case?
Yes.
Dr. Kraft-Reese?
Yes.
Charlotte Crane?
Yes.
Bonnie DiTomaso?
Yes.
Mr. Farella?
Yes.
Mr. Locatow?
Yes.
Ms. Latazori?
Yes.
Ms. Lounsbury?
Yes.
Mr. Stewart?
Yes.
Sarah Tucker?
Yes.
Mr. Peters?
Yes, motion carries. Next up is acceptance of a donation from the 12th Man Organization.
Be it resolved that the Central Berkshire Regional School Committee accepts the donation of $500 from the 12th Man Organization to the WRHS Athletic Department as recommended by the district treasurer.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any questions on this one? Yeah,
This
please.
figure says $400, is it 400 or 500?
So it's 400.
It should be 400.
Yeah,
Okay.
you said 500.
Can I say 500? Oh, sorry.
Yeah.
Okay. Sorry.
Okay, any other questions, concerns? Okay, roll call vote, please.
Mr. Case?
Yes.
Dr. Kraft Reese?
yes,
Charlotte Crane?
Yes.
Ms. DiTomaso?
Yes.
Mr. Farella?
Yes.
Mr. Locatell?
Yes.
Ms. Latazori?
Yes.
Ms. Lounsbury?
Yes.
Mr. Stewart?
Yes.
Sarah Tucker?
Yes.
Mr. Peters?
Yes, motion carries. Next up, approval of the WRHS Student Council Annual Fall Craft and Small Business Fair.
Be it resolved that the Central Berkshire Regional School Committee approves the annual Fall Craft and Small Business Fair on November 9th at WRHS with a backup date of November 16th to raise money for the WRHS Student Council.
Second.
Okay, motion and a second. Any questions on this one? Seeing none, hearing none, roll call vote, please.
Mr. Case?
Yes.
Dr. Kraft Reese?
yes,
Charlotte Crane?
Yes.
Ms. DiTomaso?
Yes.
Mr. Farella?
Yes.
Mr. Locatell?
Yes.
Ms. Latazori?
Yes.
Ms. Lounsbury?
Yes.
Mr. Stewart?
Yes.
Sarah Tucker?
Yes.
Mr. Peters?
Yes, motion carries. Okay, next up, Secretary's Report, approval of the minutes of the regular meeting of August 22nd, 24. Can I get a motion?
So moved.
Can I get a second?
Second.
Anybody, please? Anybody? Okay, I've got a motion and a second. Any questions or concerns with the minutes? Seeing none, hearing none, roll call vote, please.
Mr. Case?
Yes.
Dr. Kraft Reese?
yes,
Charlotte Crane?
Yes.
Ms. DiTomaso?
Yes.
Mr. Farella?
Yes.
Mr. Locatell?
Yes.
Ms. Latazori?
Yes.
Ms. Lounsbury?
Yes.
Mr. Stewart?
Yes.
Sarah Tucker?
Yes.
Mr. Peters?
Yes, motion carries. Okay, next up is Superintendent's Report.
Okay, good evening, everyone. I'm going to start out with a brief overview of the status of the Wacona High School auditorium and ask Chair Peters to join in with me or to fill in or expand on what I'm saying. Fortunately for us, he has an area of expertise in HVAC systems. So there are probably 3 or 4 categories of things that are going on with the Wacona High School auditorium right now. The mold mitigation and mediation, that's complete. So right now, all the mold has been cleaned up. We do all air levels are acceptable and at state standards and safe. So that's a good thing to report, that for us to have to report, or to be able to report, I guess is what I'm trying to say. I would say that what we're focusing on right now is also examining the HVAC systems, sort of the hardware of the system, and also the control, the digital controls of the system. And we're trying to figure out what went wrong. And then at the same time, we're trying to repair those things that went wrong. And then at the same time, we're trying to figure out why they went wrong and who's responsible. So those are sort of the 3 big things. At this point, the system is not yet at a place where it's repaired to the point where the climate is controlled through the HVAC system in the auditorium. So we still are somewhat manually controlling it. We still have the dehumidifiers in there. It's a safe space in terms of you can go in there, you can, but it still has the commercial grade dehumidifiers in there. So we're pushing for a timeline. We're pushing to get this repaired as quickly as possible. And I guess I'm going to ask Rich to sort of expand on that maybe a little bit.
Yeah, I don't know there's much to expand on other than, it's not on yet. And I would also say that there's issues with several phases, both installation, commission, control, service, maintenance, and the control system as well. There's issues in all places, so there was a number of errors, and we don't really know, and it might have been also a combination of any of those errors and the extreme weather that we had this summer, and nobody in the building led to the mold. What we don't want to do is have it happen again. So not only are we looking to fix it, we want to make sure we know exactly why it happened, what went wrong. And we also want to, given what we have found as we've done this investigation, we need to go through and look at all the HVAC systems in the whole building and the control and how they're working. So we really need to do a recommissioning of all of them of the above, because of what we found in this one and what could possibly have gone wrong. So anyways, and I don't know if there's any questions on any of it, but I'd be happy to answer any. Yeah, Ellen.
Are the HVAC systems at this point still under a warranty, or?
No, they aren't. They're
defect or something with the manufacturer?
Well, there certainly are some issues that that we've uncovered that would point to maybe not our responsibility, somebody else's responsibility. Mistakes have been made. Let's put it that way. But it's not under warranty anymore. It went out of warranty a year, and it's in its third year.
Yeah.
So what's interesting is that it could have been like this all along, and we didn't know, and it might have been just because of the extreme weather that we had, took it over the edge, and it happened in the summer. So we don't really know, and that's an investigation that's ongoing right now.
Okay.
Anybody else? Yeah, Dave?
So we have the data from the control modules from the beginning, correct?
Yes, and we actually had an independent company do a full download of all the data dump get it off their servers and into our hands, so we have that data protected on our own, so we can investigate it as needed.
So you'll be able to find out if it was ever functioning
Yes,
correctly,
yes.
and assuming somebody signed off that it was functioning correctly.
Yeah, I mean,
at one point.
there was control system, people, it goes in and out of occupied status, unoccupied status. There's the pandemic mode. There's a whole bunch of things that happen, and when those things change, we'll be able to see when they changed, and we'll be able to monitor, look at when the humidity actually went crazy on us and what happened to make that happen.
Do you have any estimate of when you'll complete the forensic analysis and kind of know where we stand with that system and all systems?
I would say that the work is ongoing right now. I mean, every week there's folks there working on it. We're trying. Number one priority is getting the auditorium open again, but we really can't open it until we know we're in control of it, so we don't have mold come back. So that's why the dehumidifiers are still in there. Hopefully that happens in the next week or two. The looking at the rest of the systems is going to be ongoing, and also the kind of the forensic is going to take a little while, for sure. There's a lot of parties at play here, so.
Yes.
Yeah. Anybody else? Okay.
So we are well into the start of school, as you know. Open houses are this week, and things are really going well. I mean, our buildings are running smoothly, and like I said, this is a nice week for us because we like welcoming our families into our buildings, and it's an opportunity to really talk to them and really engage with them and let them know some important things like what we're all about and what discipline looks like and what the expectations are, and to really lift up our families and our students and let them know how important it is that we communicate with them, and that we welcome them into our schools, and we do want to hear from them. So that's about where we are in terms of the school year. Only other thing that I really wanted to update you on that I put in my superintendent's report is that Wacona High School there's something called a NEASC evaluation. That's the New England Association of Secondary, New England Association of Secondary Schools. We are an accredited school, Wacona is. We are up for renewal in 2026. We actually were up sooner, but the pandemic kind of pushed everything back for us. So this is a process that they will be, they're beginning this upcoming year. They'll have a visit in October, correct?
They have
This October.
they meet in October and then the visit is in April. And then that kicks off the 2-year cycle for our final visit for accreditation will be in April 2027.
And then in April, what they do is they have an extensive conversation with Principal Rob, with some of the teacher leaders in the school. It's kind of a reflective exercise. They have a rubric of criteria. They review that rubric of criteria. They look at Wacona's strengths. They look at anything that they think might be growth areas. And that kind of gives Wacona, their teacher leaders, their faculty, everybody's really involved. It gives them sort of their pathway between now and their final visit, which will be the official accreditation process, which will be in 2026. And I don't have any, MCAS data. So MCAS data, accountability, embargoed accountability data just came out, and it is going to be unembargoed very soon, I believe the end of September. Mike and I will be presenting to you in October a full report of all the schools' MCAS accountability data. The way we're breaking it up this year, because I know last year was long. So what we did last year is we presented the MCAS data as well as school improvement plans. And while it sounds like a great idea, because they do go hand in hand, it gets epically long. So what we're going to do this year is we're going to present to you just the data for all schools. All principals will attend in case you have any questions for them. And then in November, they will be presenting to you their school improvement plans. But we want to make sure that once that data comes out, you're hearing a narrative from us around, the whys behind our strengths and also where we feel our growth areas are. So that will be at our next school committee meeting in October.
So I just want to add that I think that addresses one of the, school committee's feedback in the last few years was the fact that we had this marathon meetings and, how we get rid of this marathon meeting. It was always in October. So this kind of addresses that. I also think it's a great idea because we have time to digest the data and then look at the school improvement plan. So we have the month to go through the data, and when they come back with the school improvement plans, we will have seen the data, be able to digest it, instead of getting it all in one night and then seeing the improvement plans at the same night. So I think it's a much better way of doing it, and we'll also break up the time. So I think it's a good thing. But Dave, you had a question?
Not on that, so
okay.
finish that.
And we welcome feedback. So after that, let us know how you think that format went, and we're open to feedback for the following year.
If you're done with that,
Yeah.
I'm just wondering, and hopefully this is the right time, but just looking for some information from you guys on the potential impacts, question 2 on the ballot.
MCAS question.
On the MCAS
Yeah.
question, right?
Yeah.
Early voting starts October 19th. And so I think that's before our next meeting.
So I think, it's early voting, but I think if we address it, because it wasn't on the agenda tonight, and I do
Sure.
think it is an opportunity the public might want to talk about. It could be a pretty controversial issue, so I want to make sure we give it the proper address and give people the opportunity to be here for that. So it's definitely going to be on next month's agenda, for sure.
I will also make sure I include in my superintendent's report, I think Mike referred to this, the full MASS report on their stance. So you can have that, I'll make sure you have that ahead of time. I'm also happy to send that to everybody ahead of time, even before that, if you'd like me to, so you can look at it.
Sure.
That would be
Yeah.
helpful.
That's
Yeah,
what so before my report, then,
Yeah.
so I'll send that off to, everybody, just so you have it, and you can give it some thought beforehand.
Yeah, I think it would be good for
Yeah.
voters to know what the impact is.
Oh,
on
absolutely, I agree,
our
there was,
district first.
yeah, there was a whole forum around it at UMass, and it was very interesting.
Good. Thank you, I look forward to it.
Yeah, Paul?
On one of your first points, just a comment around some of the open houses. I attended the open house at Craneville, and I see Mrs. Sawyer's here. I just want to say it felt extremely organized and not chaotic. It was awesome.
Great.
Organized and non-chaotic. Speaking my language.
And as a parent, I'll say well attended.
It was.
Yeah.
It was very nice.
I haven't spoken to all teachers yet, but I think the ones that I've spoken to have been about 50%. And some level, like well above.
Wacona's was also very well organized.
Oh,
And
awesome.
not chaotic. Messages was very well organized, but you're dealing with middle schoolers.
By definition. Okay, any other questions for Leslie? All right, moving on to my section.
We have a-
Oh,
we have
sorry.
one more
Oh, yeah.
motion here.
I forgot about that, sorry. I should use my pencil.
It's okay.
Go ahead.
So, proposed fiscal year 2026 budget calendar, be it resolved that the Central Berkshire Regional School Committee accept the fiscal year 2026 budget calendar as recommended by the superintendent, and that is in your packets. If you have any questions.
Second.
Okay, we had a motion and a second. Any questions on this one? Ellen?
I know in the past, the towns have asked to be included in the budget discussions earlier than just getting the final presentation. Is that I didn't really see that as a listing in the budget calendar, so is that a plan to engage the towns ahead of time so that they can sort of plan their own budgets and see what spending might be required of the towns?
Yeah. The answer is yes. Setting a date on that, and we usually had the 7-town meeting, and that kind of changed. We kind of trying to put some language in the regional agreement that obviously wasn't passed for having an earlier meeting. But yeah, the intent is to do something like that. I don't know if you want to speak to how the meeting went on. I mean, the Finance Committee talked about this at their meeting on Tuesday night, so that'll be in there as well. But the intent is, yeah, it's all about getting them out there. But it is also their responsibility to follow through. We have that meeting most times in the past, the 7-town meetings in my tenure, in my 8th year now, it was very not well attended, with the school committee. So it's a challenge to get all the towns to come out for it, so.
I do think, though, Beth's been really good the last, since she's been with us about sending all of the towns, all of these
Thank you.
dates. So as soon as we have this approved, my guess is she'll send it to them tomorrow if it's approved, assuming it's approved tonight, so.
It is always a challenge, though.
Yeah.
There's no doubt about it. It's always a challenge.
But I mean, we can do our best to try to get them to
Yeah.
a meeting to see the data, and the information to get their input, but they also have to sort of meet us halfway.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. Any other questions? Okay, roll call vote, please.
Mr. Case?
Yes.
Dr. Kraft-Reese?
Yes.
Charlotte Crane?
Yes.
Bonnie DiTomaso?
Yes.
Mr. Farella?
Yes.
Mr. Locatell?
Yes.
Ms. Latazori?
Yes.
Ms. Lounsbury?
Yes.
Mr. Stewart?
Yes.
Sarah Tucker?
Yes.
Mr. Peters?
Yes, motion carries. Now it's my turn. So first up in mine is the self-evaluation, for the school committee self-evaluation, and we have responses from 10 folks, and I will send out both my summary that I put together. Usually, the last few years, I've put together a summary and presentation, I put it together. I don't know that it's that useful. I think this might be a little bit better, I'll send it to you folks, but I also think that given some feedback from Mr. Locatell, I think we might change the way we do the feedback as a rule, because a lot of the questions are a little fluffy, I think, and as a rule, I thank you all. I mean, it's overwhelmingly positive. That's really great. What I did was, and I did this every year, is I go through the data and I pull out where we didn't do well, and basically the constructive feedback from what we didn't do well, and I highlight that and present that is what I do. So it may sound like everything's terrible, but quite frankly, 99% of it is all good. And even in the ones that we had poor answers, other people thought it was fine. So, but we'll just highlight a few things that I want to just comment about for feedback. That's pretty consistent. And one of them, and this is real easy, is our policies. And we had, a couple poor ratings in the policies. Mainly the comments are they're not up to date or they're not meeting law, right? Which they aren't because it hasn't been updated. A lot of them haven't been updated. We are in the process, as everybody knows, with Liz LaFawn. So a lot of people felt that we're doing good because we're doing that full-scale policy redo with MASC, and that's in process. So we should have policies up to date. But that every year that's been a poor grade in a couple of people. So that one there. The other one is the committee's own goals and objectives. And I do agree with the comments here that we really don't evaluate ourselves on our own goals and objectives. We kind of follow the superintendent's goals and objectives and follow those, and that's what some of the comments were. We certainly could have our own goals, and I know MASC talks about school committees having their own goals and objectives, and a couple of the comments are that, we do self-evaluate along the way, and that we don't really we have a very, I would say, respectful committee, where, there's good debate, there's a lot of agreement, so we don't really see a big issue there as far as that side of thing goes. But we certainly could set goals and objectives and do a little better job there. There's no doubt about that. And I will send this to you all and the full set of data to you all after the meeting. Also, workshops, people can attend training. MASC puts out a lot of training, and there, we got poor ratings on that people don't go out and get trained on this. And quite frankly, we're all busy. And I can't make people go to these things. Every year I do say that the MASC conference is extremely valuable, but it is 4 days. You gotta take time off and go down there. So you have kids.
That's the one at Cape Cod, right?
Yeah, it's one at Cape Cod, right. It's a trip. You do get compensated for it. I mean, you do get compensated for going down. You don't have to pay your own way, but it's extremely valuable and educational. If you have the opportunity to go, you can take my place. I mean, if nobody else goes, I do go because it is very valuable. But there are other opportunities, both online. MASC has a lot of educational opportunities, and folks are, really bright. We have Liz LaFawn coming all the time. She's very knowledgeable, helping us with policy. We have Tracy Novak with the budget stuff. She is just brilliant on the budget stuff. She does seminars on that. If you check out the website and get educated on some of this stuff, it's not a waste of your time. It's very, very valuable stuff. So and every year we get a little poor rating on this self-education piece. It's not unusual, so.
Rich, can I say one thing about that?
Yeah, sure.
It is really valuable to go, and you don't have to go for all 4 days. So if you look at you can sign up for an individual day, and like there are certain days where the agenda is really packed and there's great things. So some years you can find a day like the Friday or the Thursday that are very, like that one day in itself is worth the drive. I know that's a hard sell, but it's a free meal and a drive down so if you can't commit to the 4 days, I found it in the past to be even a 1 day trip to be worth it.
And I just got the schedule in the mail today.
Yeah,
So
same.
that is out now.
Yep.
So.
Yep, I haven't had a chance to read it to see what ones
I
to
looked
highlight to go, but Dave has been, and he realizes it's a valuable experience, so.
It was great.
I'm telling you, I've been to a lot of conferences over my career, and this is one of the best conferences you go to. Not only are the keynote speakers really amazing, but the educational opportunities are just endless. It's a lot of conferences you go to, there's a lot of sales pieces to it, and you're like, you're getting sold on. Here it's there is a sales piece to it, but you didn't have to go to that. It's really about education and being educated on how to run school districts. It's very valuable.
And the division meeting.
Yes, and it's the division meeting, right, for sure. then we vote on that, so.
But that's not the only way of
Right.
addressing that particular concern.
I agree.
I mean,
Like I said, there's seminars and things like that that you can go to online all year long. You can do it yourself, you're right.
I mean, we could organize it for this committee. I mean, to have the thing live,
Mhm.
have a speaker come and do it on our own, and I think that would be better, more feasible than
Yeah,
going to Cape Cod.
yeah,
There's just a lot of things, and we could publicize when particular ones go up, are available, that we don't do. I mean, we'd have to, generally, individuals have to look for that, but if we did it as a committee, we could publicize what's available in the coming month, something like that.
mhm.
There are other things that we could do, is my point.
Yeah, I think it's a great idea. Barb?
Yeah, I just wanted to say that there was a lunchtime conference that I went to that was very informative. So for those people who are working and can't take chunks of time out of their day, this is just a lunch from 12 to 1, and it was a really important and good blast. So I recommend looking for those too.
I think, did we, go ahead, Charles.
I was just gonna ask, sort of along what Dick was saying, I thought we had a training planned in this, I think it was gonna be in
Summer.
like January-ish, and then we pushed it to the spring, and then, I was just curious if that was ever, like, if we just called it off, or if that's gonna happen at some point.
Right, are we doing it in November?
We were gonna wait till after, yeah.
We were gonna, so we did have a training, and what we were gonna do is wait till after November,
Okay.
when we have after the elections.
Yep,
So yes, you're absolutely right. Liz LaFond was gonna do that training for us.
Yeah,
great.
And,
yeah, go ahead.
just to follow up with those, is that possibly collaborating with other districts? So we have better attendance, you know, have greater impact, share the cost.
Yeah. Mhm. Okay, for the most part, there's a few more in here. I'll send them out to you guys. They're really not, as far as constructive goes, they're all constructive, but one we already addressed was the long meetings, and we talked about that already with separating MCAS from the school improvement project, so. Like I said, I'll send this to you guys, send it out. I think next year, I'd like to change the format a little bit to maybe, instead of the questions the way they're set up, I'd like to maybe do generic questions with long answers. That was, I think is a good, basically write what you think are in certain categories, instead of giving like rankings and things like that. Might be better to get feedback like that, I'm not sure. Quite frankly, it's really nice to see the feedback. It's 99% of it's really positive, so thank you. Just to highlight the ones where somebody says, hey, we need to work on it, I'd like to make sure we address those issues, so I'll send that out. Any other questions on that? Okay, we still have a Dalton School Committee vacancy. If you know somebody or recruit anybody, we'd love to appoint somebody. If we can get somebody there, that'd be great. And no other, the regional agreement update, Greg is working on an appointment for the language for the piece.
Oh, Jay said too.
Oh, yeah.
Want me to speak to that?
Yeah, speak to that, yeah.
I did have an opportunity to talk to Jay Berry from Mars about adding the component around transportation and VOC. It was interesting because he said actually it's pretty common for regional school districts to have this particular component in their regional district or in their agreement. And he said generally what happens, he said and it's for the reasons that a lot of the towns have come to us. He said because in a lot of ways it makes sense to have the district manage it because we know all the moving parts and pieces and that kind of thing. He said the reason it goes in the regional agreement is because that's the place where you really decide how you're going to, how it's going to be, the money's going to be handled, basically. So is it a reimbursement process or however that works? So what he's going to do is he's going to draft some language for us. He said he would get that to us tomorrow morning, and then we can always include that in the packet. We can have Russ look at the language. I told him that the language we had originally looked at, I think, was from Gateway School District. And so he's going to draft that for us. We can give it to Russ, and we can bring it forward to the school committee in the next packet.
Any questions on any of this? All right, moving on to subcommittees. First up is curriculum.
We have no report. We have not met since the last school committee meeting, but right now we have a meeting scheduled for September 30th where we will get a report on the MCAS data. Now, I wanted to ask, you said that the MCAS data will be
It will be fine by then.
Okay, so we
We'll
don't
be-
need to move the date,
Nope.
give you more time?
We're perfect, no, we're
Okay.
good by then.
Okay, so 7 PM on Zoom, Monday, September 30th, we will be discussing the MCAS data.
Cool.
That's it.
All right, finance.
All
Mr.
right.
Perrella.
So we met on September 17th, and we had a packed agenda. We've covered a few of the topics already in discussion, from the HVAC in the auditorium, an update around the regional agreement. And some of the other things we touched on were around the building and grounds director position, to continue our conversation around the landscaping and everything. And Greg informed us there was an interview happening this week with a well-qualified candidate.
Yes.
Do you have any updates?
No updates yet, but
Okay.
we're being hopeful.
We were going to discuss more on the concession stand, but Jeff Cantarella had to reschedule at the last minute, so we moved that to our next meeting. We also reviewed rural aid. New numbers have not yet come out. We do anticipate, though, that it should probably be what it was at least last time. Leslie also talked to us around the need for an increase in, what did we call it? Nursing office support. That we could use some of the funds from rural aid to help that, due to the fact that there are increased requirements or increased students that need medication, and licensed professionals have to administer this type of thing, and so to make sure that we have enough resources at all of our schools all the time, having a little extra funding there makes sense. The two big topics we talked about were approval of the fiscal year 2026 budget guidelines and instruction. So I'll read the motion and then talk a little further about it. So be it resolved that Central Berkshire Regional School District approves the fiscal year 2026 budget guidelines and instruction as recommended by the Finance Committee.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any questions, discussion? Seeing none, hearing none. Roll call vote, please.
Mr. Case?
Yes.
Dr. Kraft-Reese?
Yes.
Charlotte Crane?
Yes.
Bonnie DiTomaso?
Yes.
Mr. Farella?
Yes.
Mr. Locatell?
Yes.
Ms. Latazori?
Yes.
Ms. Lounsbury?
Yes.
Mr. Stewart?
Yes.
Sarah Tucker?
Yes.
Mr. Peters?
Yes, motion carries.
All right, and another big item we talked about was around special education and the need for an additional teacher. So our Director of Student Services, Nathan Liu, presented to the committee an update on the number of students requiring IEPs in our district, which is now at 1 in 5, or 20% about. These numbers do fluctuate across the year. Originally, the department planned for an initial decrease as a bunch of students with IEPs were moving from Craneville to Nessicus, and that should have, that did happen, but now that we're in October, more students are being tested and the amount of IEPs needed has increased greatly, surpassing the normal expectation of what's needed. In order to properly service these children, there is a request for an additional special education teacher at Craneville. So we have a motion, be it resolved that the Central Berkshire Regional School District approves 1.0 FTE special education teacher.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any questions on this one? Yeah, Dave?
That number 20% IEPs, is that including 504s?
No,
No.
no,
Do we have a figure on that?
I don't, but I'm happy to,
Roughly.
I'm happy to get it for you though. I'll make sure you get that number.
Any understanding of the increase, why there's such an increase?
As to the why, I'm not really sure, but it seems to be a trend all over, where there is just an increase in the number of students needing more assistance.
We're seeing more of a trend, an increase at the elementary level than we are at the middle and high school. So we actually also had an increase at Kittredge as well as at Craneville. So what we did at Kittredge though is we were able to share special education services with Beckett Washington. So we always do, just so you know, look across the district to see if we can share a resource. And I think the hard part in this particular case, there's compliance, I think our administrative team here is doing everything they can for students to try to make sure they're getting the services they need, particularly I would say in special education as it's related to literacy. But it's been a real challenge. I guess to go back to what I was about to say, the hard part is that we kind of finalized the budget mid-March. We try to keep it really tight and efficient, and then there were some things that we could not predict. And that doesn't mean necessarily that it is absolutely going to be in the budget for next year. We'll look at it very carefully, but there was some good advice on the part of the finance subcommittee in saying, look, ask for what you need. So we will take that into account and look at that very carefully.
We've also updated our universal screener, which screens for dyslexia. We have one of the best evidence-based screeners available in the country right now, and so over time we're more likely in K through 5 and actually K through 6 to identify students who are in need of support. And part of the process of providing that support is often what we call an SST process, which would be finding ways to support the child. And that process in and of itself can lead to a student being identified for an IEP. And so now that we're benchmarking regularly with an updated tool that is specifically designed to identify students with reading difficulties, we're finding more students with reading difficulties, and we will have to support that with more teachers as time goes on, depending on the intervention. So it's complex with the why.
And was there a change in the laws regarding IEPs recently?
There actually was, though it's the format, we now have to go to what's called a strengths-based IEP, so it's really just a different way of writing it. I don't know if that would necessarily affect it, but there's definitely a change, and that does affect our special education teachers, for sure.
Sure.
It sounds like sort of the major area where there was an increase was in reading and literacy.
Yes.
I was just curious if that was sort of the only area that we saw a huge bump, or if there were other areas as well.
I think that's the one that really stands out to me.
Yeah.
To be honest with you. And I think Mike makes a really good point in that with these more sensitive screeners when it comes to dyslexia. Plus, I think we're more knowledgeable about, you've probably heard the acronym SOR, the science of reading. We're more knowledgeable about what students need. And I think hopefully what we'll see are, with a new reading program, with new interventions, we have Hegarty, this number hopefully will go down. But I think early intervention is probably the best way to handle this. And when we see students that are really struggling and we know they have a disability, we've got a screener that tells us that, I think we really have to make sure we have the expertise we need to address that.
Ellen?
Yeah, I remember us discussing the dyslexia screener in curriculum, so I was going to ask if this was because of our better screening tools, or if we just had an influx of students coming into the district that needed IEPs, like more kindergartners?
There's a little bit probably of just new registrations and students coming in that are on, that potentially might need services.
Mhm.
But I think it's to your point that that's a piece of it as well.
Yeah, Liz.
Is this full-time specifically for Craneville, or is it a floater?
Specifically for Craneville.
Okay, Dave.
How are we funding it?
Operational. We were able to look at our operational budget very carefully. We were able to look into special education and what we need very specifically. But it's under the operational budget, but it's not grant funded right now. It would be operational.
Anybody else? Okay. You done?
Yeah.
Yeah.
We can vote.
When's your
and
next
then
meeting?
Yeah. Do you want to vote first and then?
Oh, yeah, we got to vote, sorry. It's been a long time since discussion. Roll call vote, please.
Mr.
My
Case?
bad.
Yes.
Dr. Kraft-Reese?
Yes.
Charlotte Crane?
Yes.
Ms. Bonnie DiTomaso?
Yes.
Mr. Farella?
Yes.
Mr. Locatell?
Yes.
Ms. Latazori?
Yes.
Ms. Lounsbury?
Yes.
Mr. Stewart?
Yes.
Sarah Tucker?
Yes.
Mr. Peters?
Yes, motion carries.
All right.
Yeah, sorry.
So our next meeting is planned for October 22nd. Got the month right this time. We're going to be talking about concession stand update and the Beckett Washington roof.
Okay. Next up is policy.
I similarly do not have a report. We shifted our next meeting date to October 2nd so that Greg can attend, because we're going to be looking at school finance. So that's on October 2nd at 6:30 at Nessa's.
Okay. Safety and wellness.
Did you want to do personnel first? Sorry.
Personnel. Thank you.
Not intentional.
Wait, let me do this. Personnel. No report?
That's correct.
No report. Okay. Now safety and wellness.
Alright,
See, I knew that. That's why I just jumped.
We met on the 9th, which was Monday, and we received a report from Kelly Jean Gallagher about the district health coming back to school. She reported there was a small amount of illness in the schools, which is to be expected given that all the kids are now back in school together. She said that there will be a flu and COVID vaccination in early October, and flyers will go out and requesting families to pre-register for that. She also said she's been fielding many questions about COVID-specific policies, and she reiterated that the district does not have a COVID policy, but it's supposed to be stay at home if you're not feeling well. Don't come back in until your fever is gone, until you have no more symptoms, and if you do have COVID, we can encourage students to wear masks, but they're not required by any means. We also received a presentation from Jared Shannon about vaping, the vaping programs in Wacona specifically, and how it's been handled over the last about a year since they started working with Joyce Brewer from Berkshire Health Education Network. It was really a very positive discussion, because Jared really dug into the idea that in the high school it's being addressed as an addiction problem, not as a punitive problem, and trying to help students to get past the addiction issues. For example, if they are caught vaping on school property, they're given the option to participate in a 10 to 12 week weekly meetings with a counselor from the Brain Center, who will help educate them on the health risks of vaping and trying to help create plans that will stop them from having so much effects from the addiction. He did say that he suspects that approximately 10% of the student population is regularly using vapes, but that's similar to how it is across the country. He's also looking to develop a vaping committee, which will include students, families, staff, and any other interested community members who will discuss how vaping is handled in the schools and where there can be improvements. There was also a lot of discussion from several subcommittee members that emphasized the importance of educating students and families earlier than high school and middle school even, maybe even moving into the elementary school, given how prolific it is in the upper grades and how students can spread this information quicker than most parents can keep up with it. Beyond that, we have our next meeting will be October 15th at 7 p.m. via Zoom, where we'll talk about Title IX changes and how they'll affect students in the district.
Okay, any questions for Liz? Helen?
Not a question, but you did get the notification that the flu and COVID vaccine clinic is at Craneville on October 3rd. So you could go on, what is it, Color, the links in the parents came out in the newsletters.
Yep.
And Peru will have their COVID and flu vaccine on Saturday, September 28th from 10 to 12, and there are plenty of slots available if anybody would like to come up the hill.
Okay, nothing else? All right, next up is the Wacona Building Project, which we talked a bit about the HVAC already, but we do have to go out for another bond. We have another ban, so we have a bond anticipation notes approval.
So I'm going to suggest that we approve this as printed. Each of you should have received the bond anticipation note approval summary, unless you want me to
It was
read
in
it.
the packet?
It was in the
No, I
packet.
don't, yes.
Yes, it was in the packet.
Okay.
And we have copies here if anybody wants to.
Can I get a second on this?
So,
Okay, we've got a motion and a second. Any questions, comments?
I tried to read it, I guess I didn't find it. Is there a duration of this bond?
12 months. And this is hopefully our last time going out for a bid. We will be permanently
Can that be
bonding.
suspended if we go out with a permanent bond prior to that?
Well, I think we would go out for permanent bond in the next fiscal year, so we would be prepared for the amounts in the FY26 capital budget at that point. Because we wouldn't.
You mean we can't go out for a permanent bond before 12 months? You're
Right, and we wouldn't want to because we wouldn't have the assessments from the towns to pay that first
I see.
bond. So this actually lines up pretty well with, we should have the information by March to include in our budget for the towns.
Hmm.
Yeah.
It doesn't really have to do with this, just more curious. Is there a list of bonds anywhere that we have as a district out there, or is it just this one that we keep rolling into
Bands, or we do have some bonds out.
bonds?
Yes,
Yeah.
we do have a list, yes.
That's the capital project list,
Yeah.
right?
I'm trying to think.
Is
We
there,
have-
is there more than that?
No, just the projects.
Yeah.
Dalton,
Well-
Central Berkshire, general GO bonds? Yeah.
Any other questions? Roll call vote, please.
Mr. Case?
Yeah.
Dr. Kraft-Reese?
Yes.
Charlotte Crane?
Yes.
Bonnie D. Tomaso?
Yes.
Paul Farella?
Yes.
Mr. Locatell?
Yes.
Ms. Latazori?
Yes.
Ms. Lounsbury?
Yes.
Mr. Stewart?
Yes.
Sarah Tucker?
Yes.
Mr. Peters?
Yes, motion carries. Next up is regional agreement ad hoc. We talked a little bit about that. Greg's gonna set up the meeting for adding the language, and hopefully we can get some of the towns together and talk about moving forward on the agreement as it is. Then superintendent evaluation ad hoc. Barbara.
Nothing to report right now.
Okay, all right, well, so we're at the end here. Any old business? Any new business? Remarks for the good of the committee. Oh,
This weekend is the Buddy Walk here at Craneville at 11 a.m. benefit Berkshire County ARC and families with Down syndrome. So Best Buddies from Wacona Club is helping to organize and will be working the event. It's happened here for many, many, many years, so and it's always well attended, so I encourage everybody to come and enjoy.
thank you. And Paul?
Just general question, I saw a large tent out there. What's that?
It's for the Buddy Walk.
It's for the Buddy Walk, okay.
Food and games and stuff afterwards.
Okay.
Come and face painting, it's great.
Craneville is now a wedding venue.
Raising money for the schools.
That's my house. That's my house.
Okay, anything else? Motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Motion is second. Roll call vote, please.
Mr. Case?
Yes.
Dr. Kraft-Reese?
Yes.
Charlotte Crane?
Yes.
Bonnie DiTomaso?
Yes.
Mr. Farella?
Yes.
Mr. Locatell?
Yes.
Mrs. Laddersori?
Yes.
Ms. Lounsbury? Mr. Stewart?
Yes.
Sarah Tucker?
Yes.
Mr. Peters?
Yes. Motion adjourned. Meeting adjourned. Thank you.